there is a funny fact, because during the night that the Temple of Artemis burned down, somebody very important was born, according to legend. Hi guys, and welcome to a new video. I know it took me a long time, but this subject was really hard to dive into, and well, I have other stuff to do as well. As I said before, I don't earn money with making these videos, so it's always it comes second after working and stuff like that. And my channel is 1 year old, and thank you all so much for supporting me. Although I don't have a lot of followers at the moment, I know people appreciate my videos, and well, I like that because I was a bit nervous when I started, especially because English is not my native language, as most of you can hear. And yeah, it's always hard to be sure that everything you say is correct and you pronounce things the right way. And I'm happy that my accent hasn't bothered anyone. At least nobody told me it bothered them, so yeah, I think it's fine. And this time I'm gonna continue the 7 Wonders of the Ancient World series. We have only 2 left, and after that I'm gonna talk about other things, about ancient mysteries, aliens, missing persons, yeah, stuff like that. So let's just begin. And this time I'm gonna talk about the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. The Temple of Artemis, also known as the Temple of Artemision or as the Temple of Diana, was a Greek temple dedicated to the local form of the goddess Artemis. It was located in Ephesus in ancient Greece, in a Greek colony in Asia Minor, 75 kilometers south of the modern port city Izmir in Turkey. Nowadays the site lies near modern-day Seyuk in Turkey. It has been rebuilt 3 times, and in its final form it became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And it was actually considered as the most beautiful of all the wonders of the ancient world because of its size and all the beautiful artwork that adorned it. It took over 120 years to build the temple, and it was completed in 550 BCE. During that time the temple was 425 feet, about 129 meters high, and 225 feet, almost 69 meters wide. It was supported by 127, 60 feet, about 18 meters high columns. The temple, like many other temples dedicated to Artemis, was faced west. The temple was sponsored by King Croesus of Lydia in 550 BCE. He was the last king of Lydia and reigned for 14 years, from 560 BCE to 546 BCE. He was known to be very wealthy. According to legend, Croesus' father Alyattes became very wealthy because Lydian metals came from the river Poctolus. That river has a connection to the Greek myth of King Midas. King Midas saved a drunken satyr called Silenos. Dionysos, the Greek god of wine, wanted to reward Midas for saving the satyr. And King Midas was a very greedy king, so he asked for the ability to turn everything he touched into gold. But it backfired, and when King Midas touched food or even his daughter, it would turn into gold. So he couldn't eat anymore, and well, he couldn't touch anything anymore. And of course, eventually he didn't want to have the ability anymore. So he made a deal with the gods, and he washed away his ability in the river Poctolus. There's also a myth that King Croesus came from the line of Heracles, also known as Hercules. He was one of the most famous Greek heroes, half god and son of supreme god Zeus. And Hercules did the 12 labors. But of course, these are myths and nobody can prove that they are true. I guess Alyattes must have been a very good ruler, and that's the reason why his family became so rich. And he must have asked for a lot of taxes. So that could have made his son King Croesus very wealthy after his passing. And even today you have expressions such as rich as Croesus or richer than Croesus to indicate great wealth. King Croesus conquered Ephesus, the city where the temple was built, between 560 and 550 BCE. He funded new buildings, and that also included the great temple of Artemis. Some people claim that Croesus is actually a legendary figure instead of a real person, but his signature has been found at the base of one of the columns of the Temple of Artemis. So that could be evidence that he was an actual king during that time. You are probably wondering why the temple was built for the Greek goddess Artemis instead of Zeus or another god. because the most impressive structures were always dedicated to Zeus or Athena and even the sun god Helios. But Artemis was also pretty important. Asia Minor was a Greek colony, so the Greek tradition, religion and also the language were adapted. Artemis was the goddess of chastity, hunting, wild animals, forests, childbirth and fertility. She was the daughter of Zeus and Leto, and she was the twin sister of Apollo, the sun god. In Roman mythology, she is known as the goddess Diana. Her birthplace was considered to be on the Greek island Delos, but she was also very important for the Ephesians because she was the goddess of childbirth and the forest and the animals, so they needed food and they needed to hunt down animals, and of course they wanted to have healthy children. There was also a goddess called Cybele, also known as the Mother of the Mountains. She was the god of the known and the unknown. She was also compared to the Greek god of the earth, Gaia. Both Cybele and Artemis were identified as Artemis of Ephesus, and in her honor they made the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus. So it took over 120 years to build the temple. The temple was so magnificent that every account of it is written with the same tone of awe. Everybody agreed that this was one of the most amazing constructors raised by human hands. According to Pliny the Elder, a Roman author, the temple was made of marble and had 127 columns. The columns were arranged in a double row on all 4 sides, 8 or 9 on the short sides and 20 or 21 on the long sides. The columns of the facades were decorated with relief figures from the Greek mythology, including scenes from the mythology of the Amazons. The architrave blocks above the columns are estimated to have weighed 24 tons each. It was so well engineered that even the people thought that Artemis herself made the temple. There was also a statue of Artemis in the temple, and according to Vitruvius, a Roman architect, it was made of cedar wood. The foundations of the temple were composed of layers of a soft mortar substance and charcoal. According to Pliny the Elder, they also used sheepskin to provide the necessary stability to support the massive weight of the structure that would be built on top of it. Excavations at the site in 1870 did reveal that the mortar substance and also the charcoal were used. And in the 20th century, excavations also discovered charcoal and even marble chips. But there was no evidence of sheepskin. The Temple of Artemis housed many fine artworks. Sculptures of renowned Greek sculptors adorned the temple. Many of the sculptures were the Amazons, because they also thought that the Amazons founded the city of Ephesus. The temple was a widely respected place of refuge. That tradition was linked to the myth of the Amazons, the great female warriors, who took refuge from both Heracles and Dionysus. Unfortunately, in the 4th century BCE, the temple was destroyed by a fire, and the man who did it was named Herostratus. And he did it deliberately because he wanted to be known for burning down the temple all around the world. And as you can hear, he succeeded, because even thousands of years later we are still talking about him. He became one of the most infamous arsonists. There is a funny fact, because during the night that the Temple of Artemis burned down, somebody very important was born, according to legend. Because Alexander the Great was born on that same night. And I have mentioned him so many times during my videos, because he was such an important figure in ancient history. He became king of Macedon after his father died, and he conquered most of the known world of that day. He was a military genius and he had great diplomatic skills. He spread Greek culture throughout Asia Minor, Egypt and Mesopotamia to India, and he founded Alexandria, one of the most important cities of the ancient world. So yes, he was pretty important. And people believed that the gods knew that too. So they believed that during that fateful night that the Temple of Artemis burned down, Artemis was too busy with delivering Alexander that she forgot to save her own temple. And Alexander himself thought it was pretty special that he was born on the same night that the Temple of Artemis burned down, so he offered to rebuild the ruined temple. But the Ephesians refused his generous offer. Many people believed that Alexander the Great was a god himself, so it was not correct for a god to present another god with a gift, so the Ephesians refused because of that. The Ephesians paid for the new temple themselves. The temple was rebuilt at the same spot, following the same design as the original, and it was even better according to Strabo. But excavations have revealed that the temple was slightly smaller than the other one. And the temple was also placed on a higher base to make it more imposing. Ephesus continued to be an important city into Roman times and was made the capital city of the Roman province Asia after 129 BCE. And although it sounds like a good thing, it brought unwelcome attention. The Temple of Artemis was destroyed yet again, or at least plundered by the gods, during their invasion of the Aegean around 267 CE. It was once again rebuilt and restored, but Emperor Theodosius definitely destroyed the temple in 401 CE. So we know that the temple did exist. They found enough evidence to support that claim. It was actually one of the first archaeological sites where they wanted to dig because it was such an important building. You can find the drum, which has several figures carved in relief, including Hades, Persephone and Hermes, in the British Museum. Today the Temple of Artemis is awaiting attention from the Turkish government. The temple is not protected at the moment, and if you visit it you can only see a column. So it's not as impressive as it once was, but it's nice to know that there was an amazing structure once. I hope you guys liked this video. It was a bit more complicated than the other ones. And the next one will also be about the last wonder of the 7 wonders. If you haven't seen the other wonders I discussed in a video, you can check it out on my channel. I made a list with all the videos included. And if you have a suggestion for another video, because after this one I'm done with the 7 wonders, so I have time for other things, you can leave them in the comments and I will check them out. I wish you a very nice day or evening, and I see you next time. Bye!